What's up, guys? We have a crap ton of matchups to cover. Today was not really the last day for the NHL in terms of the regular season, but pretty much is the last day of the regular season because tomorrow there's a match between the Jets and the
Sunday, not tomorrow.
but that game is it's
Yeah.
basically irrelevant, doesn't count for anything. But we have a couple of matchups to cover, and today, well, right now we're going to be covering Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. Look, blue on blue, that's going to be kind of confusing to follow in terms of both teams. It's like, okay, so who's the away team tonight? Is it the white is Tampa or Toronto? Like, what's going on? And who's the blue team? Vice versa. So, I mean, it's kind of fun in terms of that. But yeah, the record between these two teams in the regular season, I know it's kind of irrelevant because the playoffs is a whole different story. But I still want to cover this. Toronto's 2-2-0 versus Tampa Bay, and Tampa Bay is 2-1-1 against Toronto. So I mean, look, the last time these two teams faced each other, it was not pretty. An 8-1 win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Toronto looked completely lost. It did not help that Campbell was not in nets. They had Calgren in nets, who's a rookie. So I don't really blame him. But I mean, 8-1. Your team doesn't really show up to help your rookie goaltender. But again, irrelevant. We throw that out of the window. The biggest question here is, can Toronto end the curse and finally pass the first round since 2004 when they beat the Ottawa Senators? And not only that, can they defeat and dethrone the reigning Stanley Cup champions from the last 2 years? And there's a lot of pressure with that. And I think that, Matthews and Marner, who were complete ghosts last playoffs, need to really step it up if that is the outcome that they're hoping for.
I agree. I think, look, for the Leafs, especially, we know what their playoff success is. I mean, look, they've failed to get out of the first round. I believe it's 5 years in a row now, or 4 years in a row. But the point is that this is Toronto's opportunity now to try to do this and actually try to get over that hump. And obviously, in the playoffs, there's no easy opponents. Whether they played Tampa.
Well, Luca's kind of cutting off a little bit there, so I'm gonna carry on. Matthews, 106 points to end the season in 73 games, which is fantastic. You have Marner with 97 points in 72 games. You have William Nylander, 78 points in 80 games. John Tavares, 76 points in 79 games. Morgan Riley, 67 points in 81 games. Michael Bunting, 63 points in 79 games. And Alex Kerfoot, who Toronto was hoping to get rid of, somehow has a fantastic season, has 51 points in 81 games. They added Mark Giordano, who's doing pretty well as well, 34 points in 74 games as of right now. So, I mean, he brings veteran presence, obviously, and also playoff experience. And he's been a captain with the Seattle Kraken, and he was also a captain with the Calgary Flames as well. So I mean, he knows what it takes to lead a team. Um, I definitely think that having Michael Bunting and Kerfoot having career years this year really helps the team moving forward. Um, People also, forget about TG Brody, but I think TG Brody is a very underrated um, defenseman for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think that he's going to have a huge impact in terms of what happens in the playoffs. Welcome back, Luca. You were having some technical difficulties. You were
Sorry,
frozen.
technical Wi-Fi difficulties.
Um, so what were you saying before? I was just
Yeah,
talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs in terms of their stats this year and them having a lot of them having a lot of career years this year, and especially guys like Michael Bunting and um, Alexander Kerfoot, having career
yeah.
years, especially
Well,
when everyone wanted Kerfoot out of the door last year, saying don't try to trade him. He's horrendous, and this year he's proved to be worthy for them. And adding Mark Giordano, like I was saying before, a very good piece to add, brings a leadership, playoff experience, and that's going to be really crucial in terms of the playoffs, especially facing a juggernaut like the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be important. I mean, look for the Leafs. I think they made some good moves during the offseason. I think they did. Not during the offseason, during the trade deadline. And I think that ultimately they're a team that I think's gotten better. I think they've looked good at times this season. I think they've looked better than previous years. But I think with Toronto, it's more of a situation where it's like I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt until they prove me wrong. What that means is like I'm not going to go around and start saying, "Oh, the Leafs are going to do this and that." Listen, I personally think that I think for anybody, we need to see the Leafs actually prove it. And I don't care that Matthews scored 60 goals. I don't care that Marner had a career year. I don't care about all those things because at the end of the day, Toronto's been a regular season team for so many years and they haven't proven it in the playoffs. And I think that now, not only are you getting a really good, test and whatever, but you're playing the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions. And so this is your opportunity now to kind of prove to the NHL and prove to themselves as well that they can do it. The thing is, will they do it? I'm not so sure. I look at Tampa, and obviously Tampa hasn't had the best season by their standards. I think they've been okay, but they've had their struggles, and I
But you
think
have to
Toronto
understand,
better,
losing
but still,
Goudreau, losing Gord, losing Coleman, and having to replace them with guys like Belmar, Corey Perry, Nick Paul, Hagel, you know, it's difficult, man. It's really difficult replacing that shutdown line that was very crucial not only in the regular season but most importantly in the playoffs in both runs that helped
yeah.
them win the Stanley Cup. Losing those
Well,
guys, the chemistry was built with that team. You were also those some of those guys were fantastic on the second unit on the power play and even on the penalty kill. And when you're with a team for a couple of years, you guys glue so well together. When you separate and you remove that, obviously Tampa Bay did not have like the greatest start of the season,
yeah.
but they picked it up. And at the deadline, it showed that they clearly won a three-peat by adding Nick Paul and Hagel, and in my opinion, overpaying for Hagel. But you still look at their team. Steven Stamkos, 103 points this year in 80 games. Victor Hedman, 84 points in 81
That
games.
that got
Nikita
added.
Kucherov, sorry,
That Stamkos's points got added. It's actually more than that because they didn't count tonight's game. But
how
yeah,
many
it's
points did
actually
he get
more.
tonight?
I think he got, if I'm not mistaken, I think he got two, so he'd be at 105. But
Okay,
let
so
me
let's say he's
just
at 105. You have
let me check.
Kucherov, 67 points in 46 games. Playing half a season, getting 67 points is really impressive. Alex Killorn, 59 points in 81 games. Braden Point, kind of underwhelming season to be honest. 58 points, 66
Oh, never
games.
mind. He actually got 3 points. He got a hat trick. So
Okay, so 106 points for Stamkos tonight and to end the season in 81 games. It's
yeah,
true. Some of the yeah, they all played an extra game tonight. Some of them got benched, so I'm
yeah.
just reading some stats that might whatever. Braden sorry, Brandon Hagel. Thought his name is Braden. Um, has 24 goals. Most of them were Chicago. I felt like, as soon as he went to Tampa, his offensive production really slowed down. But Nick Paul has been a very serviceable player that was added, and I think he really fit well on Tampa Bay so far. And you have like Ryan McDonough, Mikhail Sergachev, you have Corey Perry who went to the finals against Tampa with Montreal and Dallas the year before that.
Yeah,
You have Belmar as well, playoff experience. You have Bogosian, playoff experience. Maroon, trying to go for his fourth Stanley Cup in a row. Sorelli, Colton. Like this team's absolutely stacked, and the majority of them have been together for both Stanley Cup wins. Like I was mentioning before, Gord, Coleman,
yeah.
and Gujo are not on the team anymore, so that kind of hurts them. But the guys they added, they're not necessarily bad, but they're not as good as those guys because that line
Yeah.
was the ideal third line to have in the regular season and during the playoffs.
Well,
And
one
I don't
thing.
know how they're gonna hold up in the playoffs. That the third and fourth line for Tampa against
Well,
Toronto.
Well, I think it's an interesting point, but I think what Tampa did is they kind of bolstered that a little bit going into the trade deadline. Obviously, like you mentioned Brandon Hagel. I think Nick Paul's been a really good addition to them as well. That I think he's a guy that can definitely help their team moving forward. But I think for Tampa, I don't think there's any doubts going into this playoff, and I think the reason why is because for Tampa Bay, they've proven it over the last 2 years that they can win a cup. And I know that maybe this year it's a little bit less likely just because of the fact that I think there's better teams in the NHL this year compared to Tampa. But Tampa's won 2 years in a
Never
row,
know,
and I don't
man.
think you
Playoffs
can.
a whole different beast.
That's it, and I don't think you can underestimate Tampa or essentially tell them, oh, they won't win again because you genuinely have no idea. But I think if we're talking about this matchup one on one, and looking at the Leafs and looking at Tampa Bay, this is going to be a tough matchup for the Leafs. And I'm going to be completely honest with you here. I think this series could go to 7. I made a
It
bold
will go to
prediction on
7, I think.
I made a bold prediction on Twitter, and I was just trying to do this to troll Leaf fans. But I basically said that the Leafs were going to get swept in 4. I don't actually believe that that's going to happen. If it does, it would be really funny. But I don't think that's actually going to happen. I think that this series goes to 7 games, and I think that if I had to make a prediction for both teams, I would say Tampa Bay takes it in 7, just
I think
because
so too.
I think just because of the fact that they've got more playoff experience, and I think the Leafs have until, like I said, until the Leafs prove otherwise in terms of playoff success and in terms of like how well they've played and stuff, then that's all that matters. So
Because we all know Vasilevsky versus
yeah.
Campbell. Vasilevsky is 100% the better goalie.
Mhm.
He's won 2 Stanley Cups. He's been pivotal part of their success, regular season wise and playoff wise. People could debate. You could put any goalie in for Tampa Bay, and they were still going to win those 2 cups. I don't believe that. I
No.
still think that Vasilevsky played a huge part, especially looking back at Game 2 of the finals against Montreal, where he stole the game, and if it wasn't for him, Tampa Bay would have lost that game against Montreal.
Mhm.
He's been crucial to the team's success when he had to step up. It's not all about their offense, um, even though people claim that it is. And then for Toronto, I think people are like, "Oh my God, Toronto's facing the defending Stanley Cup champions." Well, guess what, guys? I think Toronto is gonna have. This is my take. Even though I predict that they're gonna lose in 7 games, I do believe that Toronto is gonna have their best playoff series that we've seen them in the last, I would say, 15 years. I think we're gonna see very entertaining hockey from Toronto. I think Matthews and Marner will play a pivotal part in winning games for this team. They're not going to be ghosts like prior playoff series in the past. And another thing I like about this is that this is a fresh matchup. It's like we were talking about LA and Edmonton. We haven't seen that matchup since 1992 when Gretzky was playing for the Kings.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't even remember the last time Tampa Bay and Toronto faced each other in the playoffs. Probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't know, to be honest. You guys would have to let us know in the comment section below, or
No.
maybe I would have to do my research. But
I don't think they ever faced it. I don't think they've ever faced
or
each
maybe
other.
they never even faced them.
I don't think
But
they've
let's go in
ever
the
faced each
comment
other.
section right now. We have John Welshel, who's saying that Tampa Bay all day. Um, uh, Then we have
Rainbow.
Rainbow Ho-Oh, Tampa and 6. And then we have Jaden saying that Toronto can't choke a 3-0 lead this time because it's going to
Listen,
end 4-0 for Tampa.
I think, look, like I do kind of agree with your point in terms of like I do think Toronto's going to have a better playoff series, but I think look, you know, for me, I look at the Leafs roster and how they're built and how they're constructed, and I don't think they're a bad team. I mean, on paper, they're a good team. They are, and I think they've got the pieces to go far in the playoffs. The question is going to be whether or not they're going to be able to put it all together, right? And obviously, Matthews scored 60. I think you're going to see a better performance from Matthews in the playoffs, kind of like what you said. I think Martin's
Yeah,
going to produce too.
100%.
The question becomes for me is Jack Campbell, and I'm going to say Jack Campbell because Jack Campbell's had an iffy season this year. I know
Yeah,
he's
fantastic start. There was also
yeah.
like so much talk surrounding him saying that he was going to be a Vezina candidate by the end of the season, and then he got injured, came back, wasn't playing that great, or yeah, like
Listen, he
it just
finished.
wasn't the cinder. I mean, it wasn't the ideal season that he was looking forward to that he started having, and then
Yeah,
unfortunately, I mean, it ended on good terms. Toronto picked it up the last 10 games. Uh, they were
yeah.
winning a lot more compared to that little like streak of losing games when Campbell was not there and they had to rely on Calgary and they had no goalie and it was a complete disaster. Anyways, we're not going to get into
But
that. But
The
yeah, continue, Luca.
the point that I'm trying to make is I think with Campbell, like we saw it last year in the playoffs against the Canadians, he was good, right? He was. The question is that going into this season, is he going to be able to do it again? And I know that his regular season stats show that he played well. And he had a 914 save percentage. He won 31 games. It's impressive. I'm not saying it's not, but what I'm saying is that when you're playing a team like Tampa Bay, and I still don't know how confident I am in Toronto's defense. I think it's going to be a tough series for the Leafs to try to if they think they're
Bushkin's
going
been
to
a
be.
good ad too.
Yeah,
The
yeah, no, it's
underrated
been
ad for them,
they've
under the
they've
radar.
done they've done a lot of great moves. I think it's just about whether or not the Leafs are going to be able to put it all
And they
together.
didn't give up that much if you
So
really think about it. They
we'll see.
added Blackwell as well, which I think is another underrated acquisition from Toronto. You have Camp and Cass, who were added during the offseason. They were signed to contracts by Toronto because they're
Yeah,
free agents, and they've been doing well. We had that Leafs fan come a couple of episodes ago surrounding the Cup and Bust episode of Toronto Maple Leafs,
yeah,
and he pointed out a lot of good things in terms of that duo and what they're able to contribute on I think it's the third or fourth line.
yeah.
But for me, it's more like guys like can Spezza, do what he did last playoffs where he had a fantastic playoff series against Montreal. Uh, Wayne Simmons, can he really keep up with Tampa's offense? There's
I think this series is going to be determined on depth. Like I think whoever has the better depth goal scoring, I think is going to win. I think the big guys, I know what you're going to expect. You know what you're going to get out of Kucherov, Stamkos, Braden Point. I think you know what you're going to get out of Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares. But I think for them, it's going to be about the depth, like the third and fourth lines. Which ones are going to be better? Are the Leafs third and fourth line
there's
going to
going
be
to be a
better? Or
lot of goals
Tampa?
in this series, a lot
So
of goals, and
we'll see.
I
That's what
mean,
I'm just going to make my prediction right now. I know I said it before. I'll say it again. I think Tampa Bay in 7 games, and that's what I'm going to go with.
we have Burt Reynolds. I love that actor. Rest in peace, Burt Reynolds. Hopefully, bolts. Yes,
Yeah.
Burt. Thank you so
So
much for your prediction.
that's it.
Um, Definitely a lot of goals, like I was saying, and I do think that Campbell's gonna have to step up his game and try
Mhm.
to be on par with Vasilevsky.
I agree.
Vasilevsky has been proven to be a very consistent goaltender. Campbell at times hasn't. So I think the make it or break it thing, like you were saying, depth. But for me, I want to also throw in goaltending. Whoever has the better depth and goaltending
Of
will
course.
win the series
Yeah,
because in terms of the top six, Toronto and Tampa Bay, I would say are pretty much evenly matched. Even though I would love to say that Tampa Bay has a slight edge with guys like Kerfoot and Bunting really stepping up their games this season. I got to give credit where it's due, and Toronto has improved with the moves they made during the offseason and during the season, and overall play, and they deserve credit. And
yeah.
I wish them nothing but luck to the Toronto Maple Leaf fans. Um, Hopefully you guys break the so-called curse and
Hmm.
pass the first round, but it's going to be a challenge. It's not going to come easy. If you guys want it, you guys are going to have to work for it. And if you beat the reigning Stanley Cup, two-time Stanley Cup champions, I do believe you guys can go to the Stanley Cup
Can
finals.
can I just say one last thing? I saw an interview this today, and it was basically they interviewed Wayne Simmons, and they were like, "So, what's your plan?" And he's like, "Oh, what's your plan for the playoffs?" And he goes, "To not lose, to be prepared not to lose." And then and then on Twitter, everybody was joking around saying the Leafs last year they lost on purpose because they were expecting to lose.
Jesus. Anyways, with that being said, we just want to say thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode where we are covering. It's a back-to-back segment today. We are covering the Boston versus Canes matchup after this video, so look out for that video. And we're going to be continuing our matchup videos up until the first round of the playoffs begins, and we're going to be continuing this up until the finals. Don't forget to like this video, write your predictions in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much, guys. Until the next one.